just start kicking corn.
This is the first time.
job.
This is the first time we'll be live on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I saw your post.
Oh my!
Let's see.
Who wants to do the honors?
Let the magic happen.
I can be a poor guy.
Okay, you be the poor.
Was that rye?
I really like the rye.
Bourbon rye.
Yes.
This is the Okayest Hunter podcast. Never pass on shooter bucks, because that's just meat in the freezer. It's your tag. You hunt how you want. This is Okayest Hunter.
Welcome to the Okayest Hunter podcast, coming at you from Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. We are live and ready to go. Almost. I'm trying to do this one thing, and it's not updating, so that's fine. I will try that in just a few seconds, see if we can get that to go, so then you guys can see our guest when she comes onto the screen.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome. What's new in your guys' neck of the woods?
Oh my gosh, this show.
Always comes up on this.
Heartland is always on ours, and my son, when he wakes up in the morning and turns on the TV, he gets sucked into that show, and I'll come out, and I'm like, how long have you been awake, Gus? And he's like, I don't know, I'm just like really into this Heartland show.
Heartless?
The storyline will get you.
I don't know. It says we're streaming, but YouTube's not
dealing,
I can't see it on this screen yet, which is interesting. Usually it's pretty quick. So I don't know what that's all about. I feel like it's just everything's got a caching issue. Cache. Right? Is that how you say it?
Just put on some booba.
All right. Come on now. There it is. It just took a second. So, okay. I don't know. We're brought to you by Nosler Ammunition. Go to Nosler. Is it Nosler Inc.? Oh, great. This is embarrassing because they're our guests and I don't even know what I'm doing. Nosler.com. Wow. Use code OHP for 20% off. And be sure to check out all our partners. But we're not going to talk about all of our other partners today because this episode is Nosler's episode. So they get all the elbow room to stretch it out and fire some rounds down range.
Mm-hmm.
So let's, I'm going to need to waste any time kicking tires over here. Bullshit. Unless you guys want to bullshit more. I don't know. Have you tried this yet?
Yeah, it's good.
We didn't. Yeah, we got to clink them.
Oh, yeah.
Clink them, boys.
It's been a little while.
Cheers.
Yeah. That's a strong one.
Yes, indeed.
What is this? 113 proof Knob Creek Bourbon Rye.
Put a little hair on your back.
Yeah, in all the places on your body.
Except for on your head.
My palm of my hand just sprouted a hair. Correct that coffee and bourbon.
Yeah, a little Irish coffee going on.
What song is it? Dark coffee in the morning and dark whiskey in the evening?
Sounds like a Luke Bryan something or
sounds
another.
Dark coffee in the morning.
That's what it is.
Whiskey in the, I don't know, something like that.
I think that's hunting, fishing, loving every day.
Yeah, that might be it.
Could be. That was on the other day. My kids were humming along to that.
You had to squint your eyes and put your nose to the air like you're smelling a poo.
Why would you do that?
Because that's what you do.
When you do what?
When you sing that song.
Oh, I thought you were going to put your pinky up and start drinking bourbon saying you're smelling poo.
No.
Why was Tigger looking in the toilet?
I thought it was a joke about
I don't know,
dark coffee.
I'm waiting for the answer
He was
here.
looking for poo.
See, there you go.
That's the joke.
Yeah.
Dad
joke for days, buddy.
Maddie, welcome to this.
Welcome to the shit show.
There's the segue, Maddie.
Literally. I can't.
What have I got myself into, she says. Why are we title sponsoring this weird show?
The sponsor just got pulled.
Dude doesn't even know our website.
Oh, Lord.
Oh, Madi Woodward is our guest tonight. Maddie, you're out of Oregon, right?
Yeah, Bend, Oregon.
That's awesome. I know someone just moved to Bend, Oregon, so that's kind of cool. What's
it
like over there right now?
Really nice weather. It hasn't gotten super hot yet this year. We had a really good spring, lots of moisture. It's pretty green now. But yeah, no, it's been nice.
We've had, what's the meme with Chris Farley? For the love of God, stop raining.
Yeah.
We're over it. It just keeps raining every single day.
Between Friday and Sunday, we got dang near 4 inches of rain.
Oh, is that normal?
No. Considering last 2 seasons, I don't think we got that all summer. And we could literally light our lawns on fire with just a magnifying glass and a little sunlight last year.
Yeah.
This year it's green, and we probably mowed that thing 8 times by now.
If you can mow it when it's not raining.
Right.
Everybody's basement's dry. Yours seems dry.
Yep.
That's good.
We're on a hill, so
Yeah, that helps.
unless I have a freak flooding accident when my gutters are off,
Or
and
your
the roof is
gutters
getting
are off?
done,
Yeah.
but otherwise
recall.
it's pretty kosher.
Yeah, our good buddy Dave, it was his daughter's birthday party this past weekend. And I was visiting with them, went to the birthday party, and his neighbors almost up to the second step in their basement was all flooded.
Oof.
So, not
and
good.
and everyone's
The sump pump
experiencing
wasn't
with
working.
it.
2 sump pumps in there, and neither of them were working.
Whoa.
You know, it's going to be a while before they get serviced because everyone's got flooded basements. So, yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, enough about that. Maddie, can you I'm really jealous of your lifestyle. So let's just talk about how you got on this trajectory of living the most awesome life ever.
Yeah. Oh God, how far back do you want me to go?
And we could go back
All
to
the
when.
way.
Yeah, when did the idea? How did you get so? You know so much about ammunition and firearms, and I'm assuming that came well before your, employment at Nosler. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have gotten the job. So, like, when did this all start for you? When you were 6, you were shooting rifle?
Yeah, I mean, as far back as I can remember, I grew up hunting with my dad and my brother, and I remember, like, my mom never hunted. She was always very supportive of it, but my dad would also be like, taking the kids, we're going hunting, and it kind of just was second nature. I never really noticed that wasn't the norm until I got into middle school and high school, and I was the only one missing school to go hunting. And then I was like, oh, okay, not everyone does this. But I just kind of grew up, didn't really know much different. It was, my dad hunted kind of for sport, to put meat in the freezer. It was just something that he really enjoyed doing, and my brother and I always tagged along.
Did you grow up in Oregon?
I did. I grew up in Northwest Oregon, about an hour from the coast. So I grew up hunting the Coast Range, Blacktail, and Roosevelt's.
Very cool.
Wait, where are you guys going?
We're going to Southwest.
Southwest corner.
Down by like Roseburg?
I don't know the townships, but I think we're
Keep going south.
like 10 minutes from the
10 minutes
California border,
yeah,
right?
We're 10 minutes from the
Okay.
California border.
Going there this October.
Are you
Yeah,
hunting Blacktail down there, or what are you guys hunting?
Yeah.
Blacktail, and we're probably going to pull black bear tags because
Bear tags are over the counter,
yeah,
right?
They're over the counter, and they're relatively.
There's a lot of bears down there.
Let's go.
So if nothing else, we're going to be coming home with a black bear for sure.
Yeah, we're really looking forward to it. I mean, the area
Yeah.
just looks beautiful. I've always wanted. My dad's gone to Oregon when I was a kid, and he brought back pictures, but his pictures were lousy. But he just kept saying that it was one of the most beautiful places he's ever been.
I loved my time in Oregon when I went there on a small vacation to visit some family. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it's
We
beautiful.
traveled the entire state. We did Cannon Beach, Smith Rock, Diamond Mountain, Diamond Mountain. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I don't know. We did Mount Hood. We did some raft down the Rogue River rafting. We did everything.
Wow, you did.
It's fun. Yeah. So Oregon, I think it's a beautiful place. I'm really jealous if these guys are going, but I can't seem to get out of my crazy house. No, that's cool. So it's kind of just something that you grew up with, but how, like, Oregon's a pretty outdoorsy place. Is it more like REI outdoorsy and less hunt outdoorsy? And that's why you were one of the few that were doing that kind of thing, or what's?
I would say it's probably a pretty even split. The state's kind of segregated political wise, which also means like there's heavier areas of like the REI people versus the hunters. But no, I just felt like, especially as a female, like girls on my basketball team weren't taking time off to go hunting, and that's kind of when I really noticed it. But I didn't really get into ballistics and bullets and knowing all the parts and pieces and really diving into how the bullet performs until I met my husband, and he is an avid reloader, and he's the one that really sparked my interest in that. Growing up, like, we always just kind of went to the store and grabbed something off the shelf. And then in college, I got big into archery and kind of have explored that. So it's kind of been a journey, and I've grown in the process. But I think being at Nosler has really honed my passion for it.
No, that's cool. Can you talk about the moment when you're like, what is it you're doing, honey? And then talk about how that became interesting for you. Because I would love to get some tips and pointers on how to get my wife interested in more stuff. But
I'm also interested in what that looked like.
Yeah.
Hey, that basement time you have by yourself? Can I join you? Like, how does that work?
I don't know. I think I've just always had. I don't know. I've just always had an interest in guns and hunting, and my why behind it has changed over the years. But when I met him, it started as like time we would spend together. Like I would help him reload a little bit. And then I'm always just someone that I like to know why we're doing something. So then I would ask the questions, and I would say I'm very resourceful in that. So, I'd kind of just eat up everything he was telling me and stash that in my brain so that when someone would ask me, I'd be like, oh, wait, I remember him telling me about this. And that's kind of what sparked my interest. And then I would see him doing load development and really like pushing the limits on velocity and bullet expansions and what works with what and what doesn't work for certain animals and kind of what he was looking for. And that's what really drove my interest. And that's been over the last several years, but I've been at Nosler for 4 years. And when I first started, I started in accounting, and prior to that, I had quit my job to move over to Central Oregon with my husband. And I was really dead set on, not just applying for any and every job to get something quick. I said, I have some savings built up. I'm going to really find a job that I'm passionate about and that I want. And he had some old Nosler reloading guides. The Nosler family had hunted with him and his family in their outfitting business. And he was like, why don't you look at Nosler? They're in Bend. And at this time, I had no idea that Nosler was in Bend. I hate to say it, but I didn't even know what Nosler was. Like, I'm sure I saw them on the shelf, but I didn't even know what Nosler was. And they had an accounting position open, accounts receivable. And that's the only role they had open. And I said, I'm going to go and get my foot in the door.
Cool.
That's awesome. You know what field I hate most? Accounting.
I lasted in accounting for 6 months before they were like, you have a master's in marketing. What are you doing?
Wow, that's so okay. We're not going to go down business paths. I'm very sorry. Just stop me now, and we'll continue talking about fun stuff like bullets and ammo. But I think it'll be kind of cool. I mean, I want you guys to steer this a little bit. Like, the history of Nosler is really kind of cool. Like, you guys are revered in the space. I was just telling everybody before our call, I was talking to another ammo company that loves you guys. And then you went on to say there's a couple other ammunition companies that like use some of your products and so forth. So like, I think that wouldn't be the case if you guys have a rich history of putting out like really good products. If you could just take a little bit to talk about that history, and then I would love Greg to just start to steer us down like Whitetail Lane and Elk Road. And
I can just share with not to take anything away from Maddie, but my experience with Nosler was as a kid. My dad reloaded. My dad was a gunsmith for a while, and he had the green book with the moose on it, the Reloader's Bible. That's what he always called it. It's probably the second edition. I think you guys are probably up to 4 or 5 editions now, maybe more.
We're working on our 10th.
There you go. That's how far out I am of it. But I watched.
So Greg knows nothing now.
No, I'm not claiming to know much. Yeah, but it goes to show you the book that he had
more than us.
The book that he had was probably obsolete, but he was also loading a dinosaur of a round in the 264 Winchester. I mean, that thing was cool until the 7 Ren mag came out, and everybody went away from that, went to the 7 Ren mag because it was a heavier bullet and it was more capable. It wasn't as fast, but it was more capable because it had a heavier BC bullet. So, yeah, the company's been around for a very long time. Go ahead and share the history with us.
Yeah, I want to throw in there too. Those old reloading guides are so neat because Nosler was so ahead of their time. There's all of the ballistics calculations in the back of those that now we have ballistic calculators that are electronic, but that used to be all in their reloading guides, which I thought was really neat that you could do that by hand.
Mhm.
But so Nosler, 76-year-old company. They were established in 1948, and John A. Nosler was the one that founded the company. And it was founded because he went up to British Columbia moose hunting, and he had a very engineer mind, like loved cars, loved motors, engineer, really at heart. And he shot a mud-caked moose and it didn't go down. And he ended up having to shoot it several times in order to get it down because the bullet wasn't penetrating the moose. And he saw an opportunity there. He wasn't happy that he had to shoot this animal multiple times in order to get it down, but he also saw a need for a better bullet in the hunting space. And so that's what he went to work on. And he built the Nosler partition, which is what all bullets in our industry are really based off of, is the Nosler partition.
So I have 2 questions. I'll try to remember both. I'll say them out loud now, and then I'll let you answer one. I'll start with number 2, and then we'll work. So
That makes sense.
Number 2 is I want to know what a partition is. We'll work our way into that. Number 1 is, how the hell does someone know what to do, like, with a bullet, to know what it can do to kill an animal? And it's great. So John Nosler was an engineer, but I think about Greg will talk about front of center on an arrow, and he'll talk about bare shaft tune, paper tune, knock tune, and getting this thing to fly just right and get that front of center weight to have enough penetration power to get through with a fixed head broadhead and a fixed blade broadhead and all this stuff. And that's complicated enough to me, and that's the flight of an arrow. A bullet feels more complicated to me. How the hell do you know I'm going to pack it this way with this? Like, it's a loaded question, pun intended. Maybe there's an answer there. Maybe there's not. And you can just tell me to cough for a minute here and it's fine. We can talk about what a partition is, but it makes it, when people go, oh, I can do something better. I wonder, like, wow, how that's a lot of confidence, and that's a good thing. I just like the mechanics of a bullet.
I will share one part of an answer with you. A partition is a division in the bullet itself.
Okay.
And that's all I'm going to say.
So literally a partition.
Mm-hmm.
It's inside the bullet, and we'll let Maddie explain.
Okay. And
so think of it as a truck and trailer. You know, the space between the truck and trailer where the hitch is that integral partition. So the partition bullet has a front and rear core. And I like to think of it as the truck and trailer. So when the truck slams on the brakes, the trailer's still going to drive it through. You know, if the trailer doesn't have its own brakes, it's still going to push that truck a little bit. So that's what he was thinking when he developed the partition, is you have the first core that's going to hit the moose. It's going to, initiate that expansion. And then you have the second core behind it that's going to help penetration to push through the animal. And so you'll notice if you shoot partitions, a lot of times you'll get pass-throughs on the animal, or you'll find them on the far side of the skin right under the hide, because they have really good weight retention and penetration because of that integral partition and that second core.
That is by far my favorite place to find the mushroomed out shell, is right underneath the hide on the far side, because that means that animal probably didn't travel more than 50 yards max. Yep. All the energy of the bullet was expanded into that being, and that animal had basically the best way of going down possible.
Yep.
Yeah, these aren't partitions, by the way. These are ballistic tips, but that's all right. But the partition...
I just figured I'd have some bullets in hand.
But the partition is right about here in this bullet. So the trailer section of that is the back, we'll say third, roughly.
Like, actually, great analogy then, because it's almost the same as you would expect a truck and trailer. Mm-hmm. Like a semi truck is probably a quarter of the, the trailer's 3/4 of the whole.
And you just talked about, the archery side and how Greg helped set up arrows and stuff. And the archery side's almost like the opposite. Like,
it's different.
The front of center is pulling the arrow through. You have your weight up front, where this is like the back, right? You have the expansion where it's like,
you have something smaller with more velocity. It works a little bit different.
Hear me out. Would this be akin to, so in fly fishing, you're pulling the lure out because there's a weighted
casting
line.
the line,
You're
yeah.
casting the line. But in like any other fishing, the lure is carrying the line out.
Yeah, that would
Yep.
be more like archery, and the fly fishing would be more like what the partition bullet's doing, right?
Did we just come up with our own analogy?
Flip flop that.
The lure pulling the line out, like archery, FOC, the tip of the arrow.
No, that's right. That's right.
You know what direction is south, Greg?
Yeah, I do.
Let's
that
not
way.
have that discussion again.
Oh, that was funny.
Oh, shit.
So, and then what's a cartridge then?
So, terminology. The bullet is just the projectile, the very upfront portion. So what you're holding in your hands, if that's a ballistic tip, it's just that portion that's sticking out the top. The cartridge is the whole thing. So that's going to be your brass, your primer, your powder, your bullet, the whole loaded ammunition. And then you have the case or the brass.
Yep.
That's the case.
So the cartridge or ammo is what we refer to as the whole thing. And then bullets and brass. So a lot of people will call them bullets. In our world, it's not universal just because
we call them rounds.
They're very different things. Oh, yeah, rounds. Rounds works too.
And jacket? What's that?
The jacket is the bullet's jacket. So it's a copper alloy jacket on the outside, and it has a lead core, or in the case of the partition, 2 lead cores.
So if we were to peel this copper off, there's going to be lead in here.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to take and cut it in half with a bandsaw, there'd be lead inside that. And when it hits its target, it expands. This ballistic tip helps with aerodynamics, and it's going to also, it's a point of impact, so then it's going to allow that bullet to mushroom.
Somewhere
back.
along the way, I think we were talking about Nosler on one of the shows, and someone had mentioned in close proximity, like at a night. So here in Wisconsin, the whitetail country, I don't think unless you're in a cornfield of some great length on private, which is common, you could be shooting maybe 200-300 yards. By and large, if you're in the whitetail woods, you'd be lucky to shoot 90 to 100 yards.
Yeah.
I don't think I've taken a shot over 100 yards at a whitetail with my rifle, sadly, because I would love to snipe the shit out of something from a longer distance.
It's fun. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. But to that end, someone had mentioned, like, well, if you're shooting at something that's so close, that bullet's going to go right through, and that animal's not going to die. It's going to run forever because it didn't have that ability to expand or what have you to really mess up the, cause some lethal damage. And so it sounds, they're like, well, they're a great Western hunting round because you're taking longer distance shots. Do you have, whitetail specific ammunition? Is there some coming out? Is there an argument you could interject there? Someone who actually knows what they're talking about?
So I would say a pass-through is, in most cases, never a bad thing because you're getting damage all the way through and you're getting the opportunity for a good blood trail because you had a pass-through, because you had an exit. There are bullets, other bullet manufacturers that make target bullets. Sometimes people use target bullets for hunting because they are very accurate, but they are not created for terminal performance on an animal. So in a lot of cases, those are going to punch a hole straight through an animal, and they're only leaving a hole about as big as the diameter that bullet started. So with a partition or an AccuBond or a ballistic tip or even our lead-free E-tip, those are hunting bullets, and those are created for controlled expansion. So as soon as they hit the outside skin of that animal, that initiates expansion, and as it pushes through the animal, it's opening up even further. And why we want a good mushroom, and why a lot of, many of our hunting bullets are created for great expansion, is because that increases the diameter of that bullet. It gets bigger, and then it's creating a larger wound channel. And in a lot of cases, that bullet is tearing through the vitals at a bigger diameter than if it just penciled through it. So I don't think that, pass-through is a bad thing at all. In many cases, a lot of people want a pass-through. Ideally, we'd love to see it found on the offside of the hide, but in cases where you're close range on small-bodied deer, that's not necessarily going to happen.
No, it won't. And I can speak from experience losing an animal because shooting a 300 Win Mag with a 150 grain fail-safe round, I shot that deer at 30 yards. It hit the rib cage and went off like a hand grenade. There was bone shrapnel everywhere and very little blood. It did not pass through, and I never found the deer. Another group
When was this?
this was many years ago. This is when I first started hunting with my rifle. Otherwise, I was always hunting with a shotgun. But I think I was probably 16 when that happened, so many years ago. Since then, I learned that was not the round to use, especially close range, because it didn't have enough time to really get down range and be effective. It was such a close, it was at its highest feet per second it possibly could be, almost point blank range, really, at 30 yards with that rifle. After that, I switched to using something that had a lead center. It wasn't more of wasn't necessarily a hollow point, but it didn't have enough weight to it. And with that kind of velocity, it was over 3,000 feet per second leaving the barrel. So it turned to shrapnel.
And at 30 yards, it didn't lose a whole hell of a lot.
No.
Of that velocity.
No. So I'd been better off with a 30-30 with that same weight of bullet, to be honest with you. Slow down the velocity a little bit.
One of the questions that just came through. By the way, the phone lines are open, so you can call in if you have questions or thoughts or feedback or stories. 262-757-4122. Dial that into your smartphone program. Our number is Okayest Hunter. You can call in every week, Tuesday, 6 to 7. We're live. Join in the conversation. So if you got a burning question and you'd rather just talk to us, dial us in, and we'll bring you on the show. The Levi Carey, host of the Western Territory podcast on the network, said, does Nosler offer a lead-free ammo? And I think you kind of mentioned
She just mentioned it.
So,
yeah. Feel free
we
to
do offer lead-free ammo. We call it our E-tip or expansion tip. We offer it in bullets or in loaded ammunition. And I will say, I hate that kind of the lead-free movement. Some of us seem to be some of us, like some hunters, seem to be a little turned off by the lead free.
I
think because it's associated with California.
That could be the only reason.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying this because I know a guy that shoots it out of a 7 mag. Well, but
him and her, no, I'm just kidding.
John Still flew. We all know who he is.
Yeah.
John switched to copper ammo.
Okay.
And he's seen awesome results out of it. Like flat out laid him dead. No problems whatsoever out of a Remington 7mm mag. So it's good stuff. I don't know, unless you're experiencing otherwise. I wouldn't be afraid of it. You got to go out and put it through the gun and see where it hits on paper and dial accordingly. But it ballistically, it works great and it kills animals.
It does really work. Our engineers created this bullet to have terminal performance like that of a partition. It's a really heavy hitter. And they've used it in Africa. They've used it on moose and big game, bears. It hits really hard and has good terminal performance. And it also has a consistent mushroom. So we really try to hit home more so that it's just another bullet offering out there that has really good performance. And it doesn't necessarily matter that it's lead-free unless you are specifically looking for a lead-free bullet. But
yeah, well, see, there you go.
Go ahead, you can
Makes sense. Yeah, to hunt mountain goats in Yellowstone and Teton National Park for culling purposes, just for culling purposes, you have to use lead-free. And in fact, I believe in Arizona there was also a place where they were doing some cull hunting, and then there's another place they're trying to cull buffalo. I don't recall exactly where. But that was one of the requirements I saw was it had to be lead-free ammunition.
Yeah, there's a few different units across the U.S. that require lead-free, and then the whole state of California.
So we got a caller on the line, and I'm really happy to see who it is. It's Alec Beckers.
I'm not surprised.
Who is... Well, Alec, I don't know. You might be on the spectrum here a little bit with your...
Come on, Rain Man. What do you got, Rain Man?
Let's have at it, buddy. Welcome to the show. Wait. I have to turn the volume up. I can't hear you yet. Hold on 1 second. I have to turn the Skype down until I get a caller. Wait. And Up. Okay, Alec, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
Barely.
Can you guys hear Alec?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you, buddy. What do you got? Stories, questions? Go nuts.
First, did you see my comment about on YouTube? And is that why you think it's a spectrum joke, or is that just complete coincidence because I am on the spectrum?
Nope. It's because I saw your comment, and I also know you. But your reception's a little spotty. You're a little in and out. So if you're in the basement, I recommend going up to the first floor or something.
I don't have a fixed hearing.
Oh
Is
man,
this any better?
Getting like every other
Pretty
word
dicey,
here.
buddy.
Yeah,
pretty
I don't know what the
dicey.
deal is.
If you got to text the question or something, do so because we keep losing you. Probably every other word.
Okay. Let me try it again. I guess.
Oh, we got you now.
Yeah,
You're
whatever.
coming in loud and clear now.
move.
Don't move.
Don't move.
Stay right there.
Cross your fingers. Pinch your butt cheeks together.
Yeah, that's right. There's no going potty on this one.
You know, I just like to point out you guys are very apt to blame the caller for the technical difficulties when I think we know your history.
Best comment ever by a caller.
My stuff is dialed in right now.
That was money.
That was.
Becker's on point.
Yes, sir. That a boy.
I hate to blame the
So,
caller, but
You know, continuing on that theme, I'm much less interested in hearing what you three have to say.
That's fine.
Because I can do that any day of the week.
That's right.
I want to hear some more from Madi. So Madi, I mean, background, I've got the TISM, avid reloader, and I understand a lot of this stuff, but I wanted to put the question out there, kind of why Nosler? And I'll give the example of like the Wisconsin hunting culture is kind of, we pick an ammo based on price, and we don't really put too much thought into that. Like if you ask your average deer hunter in Wisconsin, what kind of ammo do you shoot? You're probably going to hear this colored box, right? Not a lot of thought goes into why that ammo. But then people do understand that Nosler is a premium ammunition. So kind of what is the value proposition that we would give to Wisconsin or whitetail hunters at large to say like, hey, yes, you are going to be paying, 20% more.
20% less with the
or
OHP
whatever
discount. Let me just throw that out
Yeah,
there.
I mean, I will actually admit that I have switched loyalties in my reloading components thanks to that OHP discount.
There we
But
go.
Yeah, just to hit on that, I think that the whitetail community is one that we haven't done the best job addressing, and it's something we are working to change. I think there's a lot of education around this topic, and that's something that we're working on. That price point is hard for us because you guys are shooting 7 million deer a year versus over here we're shooting, we might get one buck tag a year, one elk tag a year. So there's a big difference in the number of deer we're shooting versus, the distance you guys are shooting. And so I understand that when you're shooting that many deer, cost definitely plays a role in it. And if you're not shooting very far, then most things are probably going to do the job. The one complaint that we have heard is that the number of people that have had a round not go off. So, a click. And so I think when it comes down to it, quality and terminal performance are really where Nosler comes into play. Getting your deer on the ground before it jumps into the neighbor's field, or getting that good blood trail, getting that good hit of energy, or just having a consistent round that is going to go off every single time you pull the trigger. I think it's really about the quality. We're all hunters here. We all care about the product, and we care about the product that goes out the door, and we know that it works. The price is where we have the biggest difficulty really getting into that whitetail space. And it's really about that education on terminal performance and consistency.
I think you handled that question absolutely beautifully for not being a Wisconsin person.
Yep.
She handled that so well because
It's
I mean, not only
it's
them,
almost like she's in marketing and
not
studied the
yeah.
market.
I mean, it's almost like she has a master's in marketing. No, but really, you
we've-
hit the nail on the head.
And some of
because-
us have experienced it, and some of the brand names I've had issues with, they rhyme with Leamington and Ornaday.
had
they,
Leamington problems before.
Yeah, Leamington problems before, and Ornaday issues, which really sucks because
They make you a little ornery.
Yeah, they make you a little ornery. They when you pull the trigger on a deer you finally get to see during gun season, and you busted your butt all year to try and get on a deer, you know, working man's blues. We only get so many days a year to go out, and the trigger goes click. You know it struck the primer, and you eject it in disgust as the deer is running away.
Click is the loudest sound on the battlefield.
It is
in the deer woods.
It certainly is. How much did it really cost you? If you spent a few dollars, if you spent another $5 to $8 more on a box of better quality ammo, you wouldn't be singing them blues.
And time is sparse on everybody, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alec, what's up?
To jump in on, piggyback on Greg's comment, I have a very real experience last year in hunting season to attest to that quality ammunition for hunting being actually a cost saver in the long run. I was going to throw our buddy Quinn under the bus.
Well,
for
you
his
just do it for fun.
you saw last year.
Yeah, Quinard's a tall, lanky fella. I mean, he can handle it. It's fine.
Yeah, but I'll have to say I also was in the same situation that both of us shot deer in Utah, not using, we'll call it high quality purpose-built hunting ammunition. Each of us spent 3 rounds on that deer. Each of our deer, right? I wasted 3 rounds. The deer didn't die. So good for that deer. But Quinn shot it 3 times with lower quality ammunition. He actually had to come get my other gun that my fiance was using to go back and shoot his deer with a high quality hunting round, and 1 shot took that deer down. Same thing with my fiance, 1 shot and that deer was down. So if I'm spending $2 a round on lower cost ammunition and I'm shooting 3 rounds, that's $6.
Mm-hmm.
If I buy a more expensive purpose-built box, maybe it's $3.50 a round, absolutely. But I'm only shooting that deer once. So that's where I personally see the Nosler value proposition is that, well, you'll save money in the long term, actually, by having better performance and, more meat in the freezer, hopefully.
And the other side of that, that's not as logistic as your confidence goes up.
100%.
And confidence is everything in the woods, in my eyes.
Well, and you also think about how much are you spending on, hunting gear or that trip to Utah, that tag.
Yeah.
That bullet is what's going to make you successful.
That is the end result.
It's the only instrument that really matters.
That is the last link in the chain to
It's the only
complete
one
the
that
cycle.
matters. It's the only one that
And
matters.
if it doesn't go off, if it doesn't hit the target, it's all for nothing.
How much you blame the guy pulling the trigger, though?
There's plenty of that to go around. We've all been there.
Yeah, I need all the help I can get. Okay,
who has 2 thumbs and wants a little blame?
if I can mitigate my own issues to the best of my ability.
I can't get in your head. I don't know. But.
And when we're talking about filling the freezer too, there's a difference in meat quality depending on how far that animal runs. How many times are you having to shoot it? What's the meat loss when you're shooting it multiple times or have a bullet that's not working?
Yep, you keep ripping holes through it. That's just less and less yield at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, that and like she mentioned, the higher the stress the animal's under, that absolutely makes a difference in the quality of the meat.
Yep, 100%. If it's a 1 shot, 1 kill, deer goes down in sight of the scope, that's pretty nice. It's less stress on the animal because I do believe they release some sort of hormone or pheromone that into the meat that it doesn't taste nearly as good.
No. I've told you guys this story before, but when we went out west, my mom, dad, and myself, and we had combo tags in Montana for elk and mule deer, and I think my dad had bought some sort of ammunition made for elk. It was some sort of heavy duty, high velocity, this or that. But we got on some mule deer, and I think he shot that deer like 5 times, and the deer never acted like it was hit. Ran over the ridge, and we found it. It was laying there, but there was no blood. We could barely find a hole because the holes were like pencils.
Just like
Because
Maddie
they
was
just
saying.
blew through it. You know what I mean? And like we were hoping for elk,
They
so
were
like
too heavy.
he didn't unload and reload, whatever. But
he was
that
shooting,
was the first time that I was ever like, holy shit!
He was
Ammo makes a
shooting-
huge difference.
that
when-
ammo had a bullet that was designed for thicker skin,
Yeah.
heavier bones. So it had, it was a heavier bullet, heavier
never
jacket on it.
expanded when it hit
It
that
won't
deer.
expand. It's just like passing through paper.
I remember watching through binoculars as he's shooting, and the thing's looking around. He's like, I swear I was on it.
Probably
I was like,
thinking it was getting stung by bees.
I don't know.
Bees, they're
It hops
everywhere.
over the hill like mule deer do, and he's like, what the hell? I like,
Yep. Hit it every time.
it was dead. We never found any blood. I was like, I think you gave it a heart attack.
But when you get a tiny little hole like that and it just zips through, and if you hit it just a scotch high,
Yeah.
there's no drain hole. I mean, it's causing damage, but it's just like poking it with a real sharp, skinny knife. It goes through,
Yep.
and all the bleeding is happening inside. It never has a chance to get out.
Be like shooting a field point.
Yep,
Yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
Shooting a
Same
field
thing.
point at a squirrel or a rabbit, it's not
Mhm.
going to bleed a whole lot.
Any more brain busters, Alec?
I've got 2 more questions for Maddie if I can ask them.
I only
Please
said
do.
brain busters because I wanted to be like Billy Madison. I'm
Brain
not trying to be mean.
busters?
Any more brain busters? Anyway.
All right, so Maddie, if I'm the average Wisconsin whitetail hunter, or Midwest whitetail hunter,
Which he is.
and I go to the, brick and mortar ammunition store, I'm lost in a sea of different boxes of ammunition. Putting caliber aside, if I want to look at Nosler, that is going to be the best hunting ammunition for my purposes in Wisconsin of, like previously mentioned, ranges anywhere from 30 feet to 100 yards, maybe 200-300. Is there a Nosler ammunition that would be the best suited for whitetail hunting under those conditions?
I would shoot the AccuBond. We advertise the ballistic tip in the whitetail space just because it's a little more cost conscious. The ballistic tip does a great job as well. I really like the performance of the AccuBond, and a lot of the guys I've talked to in the whitetail space, they'll start with the ballistic tip, and that's kind of like the gateway into Nosler because of the cost, and they'll end up graduating up to the AccuBond, and they like the AccuBond performance a little bit better.
It's a good bullet.
Buy once, cry once, right?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good slogan.
So, last question I would have, and if you want me to call in later and talk more nerdy stuff, I'm happy to do so. But, Maddie, if you could only shoot one cartridge for the rest of your life,
Here it
does
is.
not matter the application, one cartridge, you can only shoot that cartridge, what would it be?
It's a great
I'm gonna say.
I know where she's going to lean with it.
Are you
What?
thinking I'm gonna say 28 Nosler?
You are. You're going to say 20.
I'm torn between the 28 Nosler and the 30 Nosler.
Okay, so I mean, and yeah.
Educate us common folk. Because
Yes.
those are 2 Nosler, right? Those are 2 Nosler.
Yeah.
They're
Caliber.
2 Nosler proprietary cartridges,
Yep.
and
Based off old school cartridge numbers, right? I mean,
yes.
the bore is the same. The length of the bullet is not. And
So
we'll leave it
the
at that.
28 shoots 284 bullet, 7mm bullet. I would say it's more closely related to the, I don't really even want to say 7 rem mag, but 7 rem mag or 7 PRC. But it has a much larger case capacity. So it actually has a larger case capacity than our 30 Nosler, but some people will make an argument for a 30 cal bullet. I really like the 28. I really like its performance. It's a heavy hitter, has a large case capacity, has a good velocity, and you're going to be able to hunt most American big game with it.
Mm-hmm. And now we're talking about a 0.284 diameter next to a 0.308 diameter. We're splitting frog hairs pretty much, not necessarily, but
In the ballistics world,
in a
it's
ballistics world, it's a big
it's a fun
difference.
difference.
Yeah.
But when the common hunter, the okayest hunter, whatever. Grandpa shot a 30-06. That's a 308 diameter, or 30-30 or a 300 Win Mag or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A 308 diameter bullet has been around, since before World War II. It's tried and true, and Grandpa shot a 30-06, and why shouldn't I? Kind of thing. But
Grandpa also wore plaid, and that's not a thing anymore.
I think,
but you're trying to make it a thing.
But that's the idea.
fine.
That's the idea of the Wisconsin Hunter is like the ammunition. You go to the box store, you buy the whatever. Because when you're on a deer drive and you're launching 15 shells and you're not hitting anything, I guess it doesn't matter that much. But if you want to hit something and you want to kill something,
you're on a deer drive and you're
starts to
launching
matter a
15
little.
shells and you're not hitting a damn thing, I think you need to stop. You need to put the rifle
I think
down
the deer is
It's not that
running.
and just go
ammunition.
get a
It's
slingshot.
a running
Yeah.
deer, and you should probably.
But
chill the
how
hell out
common
of
is
it.
that? That's common.
It used to be very common.
It's less
common now.
But that used to be.
80s, 90s, when you and I were growing up as
Oh,
kids,
that was what.
there was huge groups of guys, and most of them were toting 12 gauges. But still, if they were toting rifles,
And that
we'd all be
changed.
in
Rifle
trouble.
laws changed somewhere in
big time,
between
big
then
time.
and now.
Right. But to get back to it, the 284 bullet is much more efficient. It's got a higher BC, ballistic coefficient. It cuts wind better. There's less deflection because it's a smaller diameter round.
I have a question.
And they make great. They've improved on it since the 7mm rim mag.
Mm-hmm.
What? So I've heard that shooting any ammunition of any rifle, there's got to be a relationship between those two things. You should try certain things in your rifle to see what it shoots best. That being said, is there, I don't know, are there rifle brands or manufacturers or models that you think like, typically this works better with our ammunition from what you've heard or seen or experienced, or is it like, no, you need to go try it? What are your thoughts?
I think you need to try it. It's really, I don't want to say personal preference, but it's your rifle's personal preference. So if you have a ballistic tip partition load and AccuBond load, sometimes you'll find that your rifle might shoot one a little tighter than the other. And there's so many things and factors that go into the manufacturing of your rifle that really play a role in how that ammunition performs in your rifle, from the barreling, the twist rate, how your action is, and the throat, and how long that bullet is loaded in the ammunition. And there's a lot of things that go into it. There's a few brands of rifles that I would say are known for not shooting our ammunition as well, and that's few and far in between. Most of them will shoot our ammunition well. You really just want to find one that it likes. And for most people, they're not going to have an issue with that, especially in the whitetail space when you're not shooting out at great distances. When people are shooting 500, 600, 700 yards, then you're going to really want to make sure your rifle likes what you're shooting. We have an AccuBond long range bullet that a lot of guys here in the West like to use. It expands down to a really low velocity for longer distances, and that bullet tends to be a little bit more finicky when people are hand loading it. We say to load it a little further off the lands, but there's like certain instances when things work better than others, but it's really your rifle's personal preference. But for the most part, it's gonna like whatever you tell it to shoot, but there are some instances where one load might shoot a little bit tighter than the other.
Well, I've got a question for Maddie when you're done discussing this part.
Okay. The only thing I will say is you could have two of the same brand of rifle. We'll pick the Winchester Model 70 classic rifle, the rifleman's rifle. It could be off the same assembly line, and maybe somebody had bad tooling one day, and the tolerances aren't as tight. Every rifle shoots bullets just a scotch different, and we're off in the weeds with that too. You can get pretty in depth, but to your point, every rifle likes rounds just a little bit differently, and you have different results from rifle to rifle, whether it's the same brand or two completely different brands.
My question for you, Maddie, is I am just really, I'm just not ashamed to say I don't know nearly as much about any of this as Greg does. So Greg's going to go out to Oregon this October, set up. He's got all this stuff. I'm shooting right now. I got a 30-06. That's my tried and true whitetail gun.
It'll work great for what
it
you're
doesn't
gonna do.
shoot. I don't shoot it out to great lengths. I've never shot a 300-yard shot with that gun in my life. But that's the gun. It's a Remington Model 700. What
We have the
as
same
a Midwestern guy who's going to be going out to Oregon to hunt blacktail and some clear cuts, hopefully, and might have a little bit of range between me and my quarry.
A little range and a little rain.
Yeah,
Yeah, rain.
What do I need to know? What would you recommend as far as a bullet, or just keeping in mind as far as shooting, because it's just out of my wheelhouse.
I would shoot the AccuBond, and I would start stretching it. I don't know if you guys have like a range where you can stretch it out at some distance, but I would practice. I would practice out at some distance. I mean, chances are it's pretty thick over there. You might be able to get a closer shot, but if you're hunting clear cuts, you might have to shoot across a draw. So I wouldn't say you're not going to have to shoot 300 yards or so. So I would definitely practice. I think one thing that really plays a big role in people's accuracy too is a steady rest.
100%.
So don't ever underestimate the importance of a steady rest. If you can get prone, get prone. If you have a tripod, take a tripod. I really like to get on a tripod and throw your hunting pack under your shoulder and kind of use that as a brace. That's what I do when I hunt with new hunters and get them set up. But yeah, anything that can get you a better rest. And then what scope are you shooting? Like, you want to make sure your scope allows you to make a good shot at distance as well.
Yeah, that's not going to be my scope. I got like the
3 to 9,
the 3x9, the
You could-
classic whitetail.
You could do 300 yards. It's not ideal, but you can
that's a
do
poke
it.
and hope.
I wouldn't say that. I mean,
You're
you
aiming
can
at
do
the
it,
hot,
but
the hot tail, the hot dog weenie in
Yeah,
the middle of the scope.
the 3 to 9 isn't most ideal, but it will work. It just
One of these
3 to 9
days
by 40.
One of these days, I'll get.
I'm going
out
to stock
west.
up on one at 35 yards anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll see what you do.
that'd be awesome.
I
I got to be prepared, though. I got to
Right,
listen
yeah.
to Maddie here.
No,
But you also, the more you practice at distance, the more comfortable you'll be if
Yep.
you're shooting 100 yards too.
yeah,
I got a Nikon Monarch scope on mine, and I got that. Someone had mentioned my buddy's dad, who at the time was the president of the Wisconsin chapter SCI. So he had done hunts all over the world, and he just happened to be at Gander Mountain when I was at Gander Mountain buying my scope. And I was like, oh, well, hey, what scope should I buy? And he's like, Nikon Monarch's great for whitetail, but if you choose to go out west sometime, it'll still be a great scope for that too.
yeah. I mean, you get within.
Is yours a
That's-
3x9?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I
it's a
don't-
3 to 9 by 40.
That's what I have. It was an
I
Nikon
don't-
Monarch
and I
3x9.
had the
Maybe
same
we have the
rifle
same
you
thing.
did.
Which is I mean,
It
it's
works.
Do we have the
smallest.
same exact rifle?
I got a Monte Carlo. Mine's left-handed, so it's probably not the same
No,
shirt.
is yours a bolt action?
Bolt action.
It's a 700.
Remington 700.
Yeah.
That's what they.
I got the fancy Monte Carlo stock.
The
you know,
military
little
used
cheek
that for
rest.
sniper rifles in Afghanistan.
I love that gun. Dude.
I had
Great
that
gun.
same rifle, and I'm not part of the Cool Kids Club. I no longer own it. I just
Then
stuck
don't
with
talk. You're
it.
done.
Fine.
You're not part of the
Whatever.
club. Get the fuck out of here.
Shut up, dude.
I'll just burn you with my ballistics.
Who brought
It's
this
fine.
guy?
Derek,
Who brought this guy?
get the fuck out.
Your little girl rifle that you have.
I'm gonna butt
Sorry, Maddie.
I'm gonna butt
I didn't
stop.
mean to do
Butt
that.
stroke you in the head with the rifle right now.
What's
Don't
fine.
worry, it's rubber on the end. It won't hurt
Yeah,
that bad.
it won't
One
hurt
little
that
pansy.
I was gonna make some smart ass comment about we'll see come October, but I know he's gonna smoke my ass.
Yeah, this guy knows everything.
I'll gladly
He's
hand you my
dropping
rifle.
I
$5
was going to say,
300
you're going to have
yards
to share
from the
rifles.
Yeah, it's just, my rifle just knows what to do. It
Good
looks
idea.
at
Let's
a deer
talk.
and
Let's
says,
let
"You're
the
dead."
non-rifle guys talk shit
No.
to the only guy that knows anything in the room.
Not a good idea.
We're giving Remington a terrible name. And fucking Okayest hunters.
So, Maddie, I know you guys don't talk much about it, but you guys do build some custom rifles over at Nosler, do you not?
Yeah, we build semi-custom rifles.
Okay, so you tailor them to specs of Nosler
Mhm.
using certain parts and pieces. Is it built off the 700 Remington platform?
We do have one built off a 700 platform, and then we also have a Model 48, which is not. That's one that we machine in house, and that one we have in a what we call a long range carbon and a mountain carbon. But our Model 21 is based off a 700 action.
Sure. I mean, and that's been a tested action. And those who don't know the story of the Remington 700 action and why it came to be, look it up, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It's a long story. It's cool, but end of the day, it's very reliable. The tolerances are tight enough, and if you guys are machining things off of a design, I would bet that it's a little tighter than what old green and white is doing. Yeah, so it's a much better machine than what the old Remington 700 ever was.
Okay, as we kind of get towards the tail end of the hour,
we're not allowed to stop.
We can keep going. We got. I mean,
what is wrong
I can
with
see
you?
Maddie's at the office. She probably still has to commute home.
She probably wants to go home. Tired of talking to us.
And she's not drinking, 113 proof bourbon like we are.
I have an hour drive home, but I am good to go as long as you guys want to talk. I'm good.
Well, we won't keep you too much longer.
No, we're going to keep her to midnight. I'm just kidding.
Sleeping bag? Did you bring your sleeping bag?
Well, you've been. I mean, I think just your lifestyle in general lends itself to doing some pretty gnarly hunts, but obviously being employed by Nosler probably enables that even more. Like, how many hunts do you go on a year? What's your favorite thing to hunt? And then let's get to the Okayest, the Okayest stuff that maybe is not making its way onto the gram.
I go on a few hunts with Nosler. The last couple years, I've been very, very fortunate here, I would say. I went to Molokai 2 years ago to hunt axis deer. And then last year, I went to Maui to hunt axis deer and Texas to hunt whitetail. What else did I do? I feel like I'm forgetting something. This year, I went to Spain to hunt ibex.
Woo!
Amazing.
How did that go? Tell us. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Let's talk about but what was the weirdest food you had in Spain? Did you eat like a scorpion or anything weird?
Oh God, I ate pig's ear. It was like a soup. That was kind of weird because you were like chewing on the cartilage of the pig's ear.
Did you feel like your dog kind of
Yeah, it was really weird. It was like a tomato-based soup. It was salty, but for the most part, Spain had really good food. Really fresh bread, prosciutto.
Ooh, all right.
I've only been to Barcelona. We love Barcelona, but we only got Barcelona for like a couple days.
What was that, pizza? What do you eat in Barcelona? I don't know.
Oh, we had some, Spanish style.
Yeah, you
taco
don't eat pizza
stuff.
Yeah,
geographically challenged. I don't know. Maybe that's an Italian thing, right?
I want to know more about these ibex. Though.
Ibex is cool. Yeah,
we had to talk food for a minute. I'm hungry.
The ibex are incredible. So we flew in to Madrid, which is kind of centrally located, and then we went and hunted. I'm trying to think. We went northwest and hunted Grados ibex. There's four subspecies of ibex in Spain. So we hunted the Grados in the Grados Mountains. And then we went 6 hours south and we hunted southeastern ibex in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Pretty sure that's right. It sounds weird, but I think they have Sierra Nevada mountains there. And then we went a couple hours southwest along the coastline and we hunted, oh gosh, what was the other species? They were little. Ronda, in the Ronda Mountains. And it was crazy because every area we hunted was very different. So the Grados Mountains are lush and green and really rocky. And then the southeastern was big, steep mountains, pretty dry. And then in the Ronda, it looked like straight out of Lord of the Rings. And it was pretty wet.
More rainforest-like.
It was super,
like
super
New Zealand.
cool.
Wow. That's pretty amazing to get those different experiences all in one place, too.
Yeah, it was incredible.
Very cool.
I would love the journey to Middle Earth. That sounds great.
Well, she's not saying they stayed in Frodo's house or anything, but
yeah, you're not a dwarf or a hobbit,
back
so
my feet were all hairy.
I meant one, maybe two of those.
I don't know. All resident hobbit here.
Why do you think I like Spain?
Andy's got hairy feet.
Yeah, he's really.
And they're square.
All right, Baggins, take it easy.
And then the most recent trip I went on was Aoudad in Southwest Texas,
Yeah.
which was potentially my favorite trip so far.
Yeah, I've heard Aoudad's kind of fun. Tell me more about that. Why was that your favorite?
Well, I didn't really recognize that Texas had such big mountains. We have Hell's Canyon here in Eastern Oregon, and I felt like I was in Hell's Canyon as far as the mountains, and it was so rocky and steep, and I love to sit behind the glass and just glass animals, and that's what we did, and I really enjoyed the whole experience.
That's cool.
And I shot a huge ram. It was awesome.
That
Sweet.
helps.
Yeah, that's one critter that Texas has got a fair amount of all over on its ranches. I was just down there for work, in fact, and there were Audads gracing the walls of some of the suppliers.
Well,
I
they
was
have them
at.
in some wild public land
They
locations
do.
that you
They
can hunt
do.
also.
Mhm.
I'm not
Who's
going to
got-
name
who's
those
got
because I'm looking at those. But
More mounts and trophies on the wall. You or your husband?
My husband, because he is a trophy hunter and I am a meat hunter.
You got
Nothing
more in
wrong
the
with that.
freezer, and he's
I
got
have more in the freezer. He has more on the wall.
great.
He
nothing here.
grew up like with his family has an outfitting business, and he grew up with lots of private land. So they would they had lots of animals on their property, and
we
they
know why you
would
married
watch
him.
animals and manage them. And so he has just gotten to the point where he likes the experience of hunting big deer and big elk, and he likes that challenge. And so I mean, bless his heart, I really admire him because he will pass up anything if it's not the perfect one, and I have an itchy finger. So
oh yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Just keep scratching that itch.
So
yeah, it works. I mean, we hunt very differently, but it works.
Sweet.
I know I was going to bring the plane in for landing, but now there's rain on the runway, and I'm going to circle back
Yeah.
because there were when I thought I was going to have you on a different week.
It's calendar
I
issues.
posed all these. I posed
Those damn calendars and their numbers.
yeah. Geographically challenged, calendar challenged, can't do math. Like, I'm basically worthless, guys. So,
Ballistically challenged.
yeah, that's you. That's a good shirt.
Actually, that is a good shirt.
Ballistically challenged.
Scott Nosler.
So
Ballistically
how did
challenged,
we
Nosler.
get these
No,
guys
listen. So
as a
here's
sponsor?
where
Anyway.
I'm going. So
There's like, shut up.
there were questions that came in on we have a broadcast channel on Instagram. Don't ask me what that is, but I'm going to fire off some of these questions, Maddie, and we'll try to make quick work of it. But one of the questions is, what's the ideal setup for antelope hunting?
Antelope are one that you could shoot with a smaller caliber. I get a doe antelope tag every year, and I shot one with a 22 Creedmoor and one last year with a 6 Creedmoor. I would say a 6.5 Creedmoor would do the job just great. A 270 Winchester. You don't have to have a huge caliber for antelope.
Okay.
And then I shot mine with ballistic tips. They work great on antelope. They work great on whitetail, great on axis deer, kind of those smaller bodied, thinner skinned game. But an AccuBond or a partition would also do the job.
Okay. What is the best round for shooting through heavy bush?
Ooh. You're going to want a heavy bullet.
Heavy with a round nose.
Mm-hmm. Are we talking like Africa or are we talking like whitetail?
That's a great
Oh,
question.
Yeah, that's
When
kind
you
of
say
vague.
bush, I'm thinking Africa, but
Yeah.
Heavy brush.
heavy brush.
Bush could also be Canada.
Right. So are we talking moose 4570? Or are we talking?
Brush.
Well, no, I'm just saying brush. But what animal are we shooting at? Because if it's a moose,
They didn't specify. We can make an answer. up.
bush, a moose, a bush in
Bushka.
Canada.
Bush.
Eh?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, a boot, eh?
Shoot him again, Bushka.
Oh Lord, are you happy you came on here?
Another Knob Creek for my friends.
Yes, another Knob Creek for my friends.
Yeah, you're gonna want a heavier bullet, heavier caliber, probably. It's all.
Yeah,
It
tough.
all
It's
is
relative to the
dependent.
game.
Yeah, on the game, the distance, like what kind of brush are we talking about? I probably wouldn't recommend that anyone shoot through brush, but we all have probably had those situations where we know the bullet's gonna pass through it. You're gonna want a heavier bullet.
Yeah,
Okay.
and in Wisconsin, case in point, the brush gun for walking around and
Yeah.
still
lever
hunting through
action.
brush was always a 30-30 with probably 180 grain round
Yep.
nose
Lever
bullet.
action.
Lever
Lever
action
action.
rifle, quick follow up shot, heavy bullet, not a lot of velocity, but usually you're bumping deer out of brush.
Slug shotgun.
You're right
Mhm.
there, yeah. Or
Yeah.
it's a shotgun, which that's what I always had was a
First
12 gauge.
deer I ever killed was a slug round and
Right.
shotgun right in the neck.
Yep.
And I
So-
don't know much, but I know that brush closer to the animal is better than brush closer to your muzzle.
Yes, it is 100%.
That's what I know.
And most of the time, when you're brush hunting, it's a close encounter of the third kind. And they get up, they don't glow, they just take off. And
Also, verify your game
yes,
before you shoot.
also verify.
Yes.
Be sure of your target and what is beyond. But I digress. Either way, when you're hunting brush, round nose, heavy bullet is always better than a light bullet that's designed to travel 300, 400, 500 yards.
Yes.
So there's a handful of questions here. I'm going to
Keep
cherry
going.
pick a couple. Alec kind of asked this, but it might be cool to hear it from this lens. What are your differentiators from other big name ammo brands out there?
So I would say that there's no, especially in the whitetail space, there's no boat tail bullets, which is what our ballistic tip is. They're all flat base, and that helps with the bullet's trajectory, velocity, how that bullet performs. So that's one thing. And really, I would just say it comes down to quality. We've been in this business for a long time, and we are really big on terminal performance, putting the animals down quickly and consistently.
All right, I'm going to ask a question here, and I apologize. No, I'm not going to apologize. Boat tail, for those who don't know, what is a boat tail? I know what
don't
it is,
know what
but
that means.
but explain to us just how it's shaped and its design. What's the
So I have one here. Okay, so wait, can you guys see this?
Yeah, there's a leg on TV, but I can see it.
So the bottom is a boat tail, so it's tapered at the bottom, and I don't have a flat base on my desk. Whereas where the bullet's ogive comes, so you have the bullet tip, and then you have where it tapers down, you have an ogive where it's flat, and where it goes against the brass case where it's loaded, and then it just like cuts off flat. That's a flat base. Many of our hunting bullets are a boat tail, and it starts with your bullet tip, and then you come down, taper, then you come to the sides, which is your ogive, and then it tapers again at the bottom, which is a boat tail.
Yep. So I'm familiar with, I'm going to say something, might be a swear word, but Sierra boat tail. My dad loaded a bunch of those things because they shot well out of his Winchester Model 70 264.
Mm-hmm.
That was the bullet that had the best results on paper.
Yep.
Out to 500 yards, no problem.
Other questions? Thoughts on the ultra fast twist rifles? Nosler in for 8.6 BLK. Don't know what that last part means. I don't know what the first part means.
8.6. Does it say 8.6?
8.6 BLK. Thoughts on
Okay.
ultra fast twist rifles? Nosler in for 8.6 BLK? Question mark?
I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about that, but yes, we are working on some stuff with the 8.6 blackout.
I don't know who asked that.
Okay, I was going to say
Uh,
BLK usually
Maybe
means
someone's got some
blackout.
insider information.
Which is a larger version of like the 300 blackout.
Okay.
It has a really
Blackout.
great performance on African game, big game, and that would be one that would do well shooting through brush. That's just a heavy hitter. It's something that we're working on. What was the other part of that question?
Thoughts on the ultra fast twist rifles? I don't know that. Is that
I am a big fan of fast twist rates.
Long distance, it's necessary.
So inside the barrel,
Don't
were we
say
talking about
necessary
rifling?
or
You're talking about the rifling and how many
Or maybe at which
revolutions
it spins
the
before
bullet is spinning, before it exits
Correct.
the bullet or the barrel. Yes, I am a big
You're
fan, especially here over on the west. where
Okay.
we're
Yeah,
shooting
in
distance.
archery, it's called a helical. In rifles, it's called twist rate.
Don't get me started on those differences again.
You're already lost, so shut up.
No, it's okay. I'm just finding my way through the dark.
I just felt better that when the blackout thing came up, she was like, "What? We're not supposed to talk about." I was like, "Good," because I don't know about it.
I know.
It's just another. It's another
caliber.
cartridge. It's
Yep.
yeah.
It's another cartridge. It's I don't.
Is
even
that a
wanna-
Nosler specific? Is that one of the Nosler?
blackout? No.
No, it was actually developed by Q, I believe.
Like, is that a person?
I'm not.
No,
sure.
no, Q is a
It's a person
rifle.
in the organization of Q.
Q is a rifle manufacturer.
Will remain unnamed.
MI5. So
Yeah. Okay. James Bond.
Anyway,
All that. No,
Sorry.
we're just goofing around. So I'll do one more. New metric calibers I feel like this question's worded backwards. New metric calibers a resurgence of standard calibers, i.e. 6.5 versus 260. Is that a question?
Oh,
I'm not sure what they're
man.
asking.
Oh,
frog hairs here again. 260. So, is it a true 260 or is it a 264? I don't know much about the 260. The 264 next to a 6.5, we'll say Creedmoor because that's what's popular right now. It's the same bullet.
same bullet.
It's the exact same bullet. Winchester came out with the 264 in the 60s, and then what superseded it was the 7mm just because of popularity and heavier bullets. But that cartridge was the original 6.5 hot rod back in the 60s. And just because of marketing and cost of rifles and whatnot, Remington won out over it with the 7 mag. 7mm
You will
Rem
forget
mag.
more about this than I will ever know, the two of you.
It's just different
It's-
nomenclature.
it's
Like we have a
nomenclature.
26 Nosler,
which is
which is a 264 bullet,
64
like
bullet.
a 260 Rem
It's
or a
6.5.
6.5.
You know why? It
so
gets
it's
lost on me?
metric versus standard.
It gets lost on me because
6.5
it's
is the metric
numbers.
number. The 2.264 is 0.264 inches. If you took a micrometer and measured across the bore,
Mhm.
the width of the bullet, you would read 0.264. Or if
I
you were
understand that.
if it were a
That's-
metric
yeah.
micrometer, and by the way, you just flip it over and it has metric on it. I'm bullshitting, by the way. It's fine.
sounds
For
great.
fuck's
But-
sake.
Yeah.
Not too good.
Is that-
Anyway, but if you measure,
We're
it,
gonna go
it's
to
the same
Maddie
thing.
for reference.
Yep. Anyhow,
Maddie's gonna get a lot more
but
text
the
messages. from me.
264 and 6.5, same bullet.
Yep.
It's a smaller cartridge.
Why do we have Maddie here?
I don't
Yeah.
know, honestly.
Maddie's cooler and Maddie's better looking. I don't know. But either
This is
way,
true.
I only know because my dad shot the
Okay.
264. He swears by it, and the only reason he bought it was to go antelope hunting out in Wyoming,
Got it.
and he never made it there. But meanwhile, he kept the rifle and shot deer with it.
Okay.
Or was it as effective as an odd 6? I don't feel it was because he was shooting deer at 100 yards, 200 yards, the very most. If we went in the driftless area,
Mhm.
he'd get a shot over a picked field and be able to take a deer down at 200. But a 30-06 has got more weight retention in the bullet. It's not traveling as fast, but it would get a pass through all the way. Where a 264, if he shot it in the shoulder, it wasn't getting through. It wasn't on a 180-pound animal. It wasn't going all the way through a shoulder.
We had some good questions from folks. There are a few more that came through. Derek and I are artistically brained.
And I'm
Numbers
autistically
are
brained
not-
with
Blah,
numbers.
blah, blah,
I hear
blah.
numbers and my
Yeah,
brain's like,
you're already
let's think about
glazed
something
over.
else.
But anyway,
Look at the sunset over here.
the 6.5 Creedmoor, back to that question, is just a cut down version of a 264. 264 used the same brass as a 7mm mag.
So this is I wouldn't say this is not a shameless plug, but one of the folks that had asked a number of questions in here, his name is Dan. Oh, how do I get to his page? How do I do this here?
I don't know. You keep poking at stuff.
I don't. Oh, here we go. Dan Lay, Dan, Dan, and then Ley, and his Instagram handle is Dan J Lay. And I had a chat with him. He is a super talented photographer, and so one of his questions was, "Do they need any creative work?" And I said, "You know what, Dan, you're damn good, and I will ask that question." And now it's out in the ethos, and I can say I did what I said I was going to do, and that's that. So maybe you look at Dan's profile and you talk to him, and maybe there's some cool photo work. I don't know.
Oh my
Nonetheless,
goodness. Is he in the whitetail space?
he's in all the spaces. He's he's a commercial photographer. He's worked for
Okay.
some of the biggest brands in the world.
Wow.
When he shared his portfolio with me, I was like, "Oh, so you're not just some like kid on Instagram. You're legit." He's like, yeah. I just don't like. I'm not a bragger or anything like that, but I'm just trying to do some more stuff in the outdoor category. And I was like,
That's awesome.
man, you are really talented. I hope that you find some work in the outdoor category. So Dan Clay,
I'll check him out.
maybe you'll get a nice DM. That being said, okay, let's hear your okayest. If you have like one, what is the one okayest moment, Maddie? Maybe you're not the kind of person I think would have a lot of them. So.
Oh, I feel like I have a lot. Oh God,
Good.
I feel like they happen every year.
We all do.
We all do it. We just got to admit it and share it out on
Yes.
social media. That's all.
Okay, so one of my, I would say, okayest hunting moments was probably one of my most proud moments as a hunter.
Oh.
So I grew up rifle hunting. So that's all my dad taught us growing up was rifle hunting. Got really well versed with guns. Then my senior year in high school, I decided to pick up a bow. And my dad was always a very ethical hunter. So he was like, if you're not proficient with your weapon, you're not going to go hunting. So I got a bow. So did my dad. And I really was determined to hunt my very first year of shooting a bow. And I was like, Dad, let's get deer tags. He's like, no, I'm not ready. I don't feel like I've shot my bow enough. I'm not comfortable. I was like, you know what? I'm doing it. So I didn't end up getting a deer tag, but I did get an elk tag. And as you know, my first year archery hunting, I had watched a lot of videos, and I was like, got my bugle tube, got my calls, and I'm going out in the woods, and I'm like ripping bugles, waiting for something to respond. Well, my dad and my brother came with me a few days hunting, and this particular day was the very last day of archery elk season in Oregon. I had gone over to Eastern Oregon, hunted my butt off for a couple weeks. It wasn't successful, came back to the Coast Range and was hunting. And this was the very last day of the season. And I was with my dad and my brother, and I get out early that morning and rip a bugle into the woods. And my dad's like, what are you doing? I'm like, Dad, this is how you archery hunt. Like, this is how you call elk in. And, you know, me, naive, I'm thinking like elk are just going to come running my way. And he's like, no, we need to just walk quietly. And I was like, Dad, you don't know what you're doing. And we found this old logging road, and it was through some big timber, pretty dark in there, but there's a really nice skid road. And he's like, let's just go down this road. And there was lots of elk sign. He's like, let's be very quiet. I swear it probably took us like an hour to walk a quarter of a mile. We were going so slow, so quietly. And right about the time, I'm like, man, this is really boring. My dad is like, hey, stop. And he's like, did you hear that? And I was like, no. He's like, listen. And then up above us, we hear a stick break. And we're coming around this ridge. So there's a ridge up above us, and then it was some pretty big timber, and there was a pretty good elk trail going up, but the skid road kept going around this ridge, and we had a really nice bank. So up to our right, which is where the noise came from, we had probably a good 15-foot bank that was pretty steep that provided us some good cover. And we kept hearing sticks break up above. He's like, there's something up there. And so we kept sneaking our way along that bank, and we see a cow elk up there. And the tag I had was for a bull. And we see cow elk, and I'm like, dang. Well, then we start to hear some raking, like something's like raking his antlers. And we still had good cover. The cows didn't see us. We had good wind. They didn't smell us. And I see a spike elk up at the top. He's 80 yards, and he's just like going ham on this little maple tree, raking his antlers. And I'm like stoked at this point because this is a bull I can shoot. But I had only shot my bow out to, I had shot to 50 yards, but I wasn't really comfortable at 50 yards. So I had told myself 40 yards and in. And this this spike had probably 8 cows with him, and we sat in there for a few hours because 80 yards, there's no way I could shoot. And it was through the timber and there's just no shooting lane. And my dad's like, I think he's going to feed down to us. So we kind of just hunker up against the bank and we wait a couple hours and he starts making his way down towards us and he's getting closer and closer. And pretty soon he's at 60 yards. Pretty soon he's at 58. My dad's like, okay, Maddie, he's getting closer. Like, I don't think you're going to get him any closer than this. And so we get him at 53 yards and my dad's like, are you comfortable shooting that? Remembering back, I have like a triangle to look through. So I go to draw my bow back and I'm on him and my dad's like, okay, 53 yards. Are you good? And I'm like, I'm good. And I felt really steady. And then my arrow falls off comes unknocked, clanks on my rest. And my dad at this point is like freaking out because he's never been archery hunting and he's never seen anyone kill anything with a bow. And so I'm like, oh my gosh. And thankfully nothing hurt us. They didn't see us. They kept eating. And I ended up re-knocking my arrow.
You had to let off and then re-knock?
I had to let off and then drop because it fell, but then my rest was still up. So I had to drop my rest, which was like another clank. And then I had to redraw my bow. And I ended up shooting him, which was super exciting. I double lunged him. He went 20 yards. It was like the best experience of my life. Not to mention with my dad and my brother who I grew up hunting with. But that's like one moment that just sticks out in my mind where no matter how prepared you are, I swear something always goes wrong.
Like what happened?
I don't know what it was. I think what happened was I had my arrow knocked, but I hadn't fully drawn. So I had it knocked and then I had my release clipped and I had just been like kind of like sitting there waiting, but I hadn't fully drawn. So I think when I did draw, it just popped off. Like it had maybe lost tension every time I kept like messing with it. I don't know. But that moment just sticks out in my mind as...
What kind of bow were you shooting, by the way?
I was shooting a Bowtech Assassin.
Was that a dual cam?
No.
Single cam at 50 yards, double lung to frickin' elk.
That's amazing. That's a cool story.
Fixed broadhead or mechanical?
It was fixed. I don't shoot mechanical at elk. Actually, or deer, but I'm opposed to shooting at them at elk.
We liked you for a reason.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
I have a lot of Okayest hunter stories. Like I have screwed up so many hunts in my life, but
that's part of
learning.
That's
just one that
failures are best teachers in our opinion. That's why we try to highlight some of those things. Because what did you learn there? Like never stick around with your freaking release on your
and I always make sure that my arrow's knocked well, and
that's one thing you will over-index on from here to the end of time.
Life.
You'll constantly be feeling down there to make sure that knock is that string is always.
What I'll never do again is put my finger along my arrow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that razor sharp iron little broadhead went right through your finger.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about the lessons in the woods is that, I mean, you learn something one year and you're like, okay, I got it. Next year, I'll implement this. But then that same thing never happens again. It's always changing.
No, there's a new thing that shows up.
Thing I had to learn.
That's where the ability to learn from others' mistakes comes in huge, right? Like
someone listening to you like, arrows can fall off a knock.
Oh,
yeah, that can happen.
Yeah. No, appreciate it. Appreciate you taking time out of your busy work day and schedule to be on the show. We're really proud to have you guys as a partner of the Okayest Hunter podcast. It means a lot to us. We got to shoot your ammunition last year, all of us, during the Wisconsin rifle season, and we all, I can't remember. I think
I dropped a doe at like 160.
I don't know, 18 does.
It worked well.
You're an asshole. Thanks. 18 times over.
No, we've.
Hey man, I'm just doing my job as a hunter to conserve the land around the area. Yeah. That's all.
It's all good. No, so we've enjoyed the partnership a lot, and sounds like even our listeners, someone like Alec, is putting the discount code to use, and we converted him from whatever the hell he was shooting before, and
he was loading his own, so it's a good sign.
Yeah, we appreciate good lunch.
really appreciate you guys. We've got some exciting stuff coming up that I can't yet talk about, but maybe later this fall I can jump back on again.
Bring
and-
it back
That'd be
on.
awesome.
We'll talk about
Let's
it.
do it.
Yeah,
I'm,
we got
I'm
a lot of
excited
that.
to know, and I've got some ideas we'll talk about after this.
Greg's
Sounds
gonna be one of
good.
your product guys. You can hire him for technical support.
I love it.
You know, he's looking for the. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know what he's doing, but clearly knows his shit.
I don't know about that, but
Yes, and he's humble too, which is a really nice.
here we go.
Well, thanks again. We'll end the live broadcast, folks that tuned in and commented. Thank you so much. We appreciate all you guys and gals that tune in every week, and it means a lot to us. It's without listeners, we wouldn't have partners because they'd be like, "I'm not going to partner this. No one's listening." So thanks to you guys, we have good partners like this that are able to extend discounts to you. Also, we appreciate it. Alex's last comment, by the way, was when are we having an Okayest Hunter Brass Bash? And
He wants to go shooting in the worst way, and I haven't gone out shooting with him since we did our turkey mentor thing for BHA. So I would say we're overdue.
Maybe we should get out there with him and do that long range.
That would be a blast.
Maddie said
Yeah.
I should probably do that.
you should. Yeah.
Go stretch out the 30 caliber wings and see how far they fly.
What was that? What was the distance of the range at the Vortex indoor? Was it 100 or 300?
Indoor?
Yeah. Do you remember?
thought it
I
was
think it was 100.
No, it was longer than that. I think
Was
it was
it?
a 300 range.
Indoor?
I think they had a 300
They had an
range there.
indoor. They had a whole bunch of different ranges.
Either way,
indoor.
I've got a cornfield we can work out too. So
But I think that could be a fun thing.
It
Go
could
back
be.
up to Vortex and blast some rounds.
Let's do it.
They have their marksmanship
Course.
course that we expressed interest in participating in. Maybe we do something fun there, or any sort of shooter club around here where you can go. There's lots of them. But
When you guys are here this fall, we should get you through the factory.
I was just gonna mention
y'all are
that.
going to be out in the neck of the woods.
Yeah, I would like to, and I was going to mention that to you about 3 weeks
Maybe
ago.
we fly in a
need
day
to figure
early or
something out.
something.
I would love
Yeah.
to.
That would be awesome.
Let's talk after this.
We're just nailing down dates, and then we're going to get these guys' flights booked here pretty soon. So,
and by the way, we have a killer videographer and photographer coming with
Keegan
us.
Kettle, he's one of the best.
Sweet.
He's freaking awesome.
We're looking for partners for that
Oh,
to offset
shit.
some of the costs. So, Matt, if you know anybody,
Oh my god!
let me know. I know
Dickhead.
you're trying to reach the Midwest market, and here we are heading out west.
Yeah.
don't
It
know.
doesn't do a whole lot for me.
No,
I will hook you guys up with some ammo though.
Solid.
sounds pretty solid to me.
Yeah.
That's all we need.
Well, cool. I learned a lot here, and again, thanks everyone for listening. This will be live in podcast land. I don't know. It might be 10. It might be 1 a.m. I don't really know. The video upload stuff has been a total pain in the neck. But hopefully you guys appreciate video podcasts on Spotify. It's a whole different beast to publish. But I think you guys like it. And then typically we're on YouTube the next day. So tomorrow I'll in the morning, I wake up early and get the YouTube one out after I'm up late. And we got kids puking here at night. It's just been sleepless.
We call it the sick ward.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm complaining, and it's okay. No, but anyway, we'll be live tonight or published tonight, and I don't have anything else. Foam Fest, August 31st. We're on video for Spotify. I feel like there's more I should be talking about. The podcast network. We have another podcast coming on deck very soon. I'll tell the audience more about that. I think you guys know what's going on, and you've been drooling over it. Might be picking up a new hobby. So stand by for that. The network keeps growing. Oh, also the Onset podcast with Elizabeth Brownell will be back soon. She had a baby recently. She needed to get through maternity leave and decide if she still wanted to do this stuff. She's decided it's a yes.
Cool.
So
That's great.
expect her to be back online.
That'll be
here
great to
soon,
hear.
which is great. So
On the airwaves again.
she's a great gal.
Mm-hmm.
Whole new perspective on that podcast.
Absolutely. Yeah. 100%.
Much needed.
So anyway, thanks everybody. We're going to end the live broadcast. Maddie, hang out for a sec. We'll debrief and adios, everyone.
Peace.